That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Ramer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. If you're looking for ways to quit drinking, you can go to thatsoberguy.com. Check out our courses, mastermind groups, of course, one-on-one coaching options, lots of other great things on there, as well as the podcast. And then be sure to follow us on Instagram. You can do that by going to Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. All the links from today's show will be in the show notes for you, so they're easy for you to find. Of course, a shout out to Humans Music for bringing us in. Always love those guys. Get me motivated. Our guest today is Mike Diamond. And Mike is a certified addiction recovery expert, interventionist on A&E's Intervention, and the author of A Dose of Positivity and 7 Steps to an Unbreakable Mindset. Mike also hosts a podcast called The Dose. Excited to check that out as well. We'll be sure to put all Mike's contact info in the show notes as well. Mike, it's great to have you on the podcast today, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you. Appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today. We got some good stuff to share with folks out there. And I think a good place to start is I gave a brief intro. You've written a couple books, been on A&E's Intervention, just an amazing show. I just thought about this. I had the opportunity, when I first started Sober Guy, the first couple years in, I was doing a lot of conferences, and we did a couple conferences in Nashville, and I had John and I'm totally drawing a blank on their last name right now, John, but he recently passed away, and I know he was part of Intervention in the early years. Totally drawing a blank on the other guy's name, but great show, man. Awesome stuff. You're helping lots of people out there. Just give us a little update on yourself, who you are, what you're doing. How's things, man?
Life is good, man. You know, I have first world problems now because I deal with other people's problems.
Yeah.
So 18 years sober in April. And it's funny you mentioned intervention because back in 2004, I was shooting a VH1 show with Scott Weiland, and I owned a bar with him in New York. It was called Dive, and I helped Army James get on the TV show Miami Inc.
Oh, wow.
Army was so it was all back then. So
nice.
I was getting tattooed on the show, doing massive amounts of coke, owned a bar with rock stars. It's like I'm in the Mecca. I'm a guy from Australia. And then I had this epiphany, like with Scott and Mary, who I'm friends with, she was kind of out. And, Scott was filling stadiums. And it was a couple of weeks after shooting the pilot. And I'm like, it's not what I expected it to be. This is not the feeling I expected. And so no one intervened on me. I just was like, I'm done. I just want to just do something different. And I started to, I got sober. I went into 12-step meetings and just, I found great mentors that were like, ironically, they would come and watch the bands at the club and they were sober, a bunch of sober dudes that were like 15 years sober. And I'd been sober before.
Yeah.
I was at 19, I got sober originally, but I didn't take it serious because I could get away with it. And then now, it was kind of like 20 something years later to be on a show to do interventions. And the producer that got me on was originally supposed to shoot the show I was on in 2004.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
Crazy full circle. Yeah. So I try to tell people doing the right thing isn't easy, and doing the easy thing sometimes doesn't feel right. But it's fucking hard, man. Like it's a process, and there's no white light experience. You've got to start making empowering choices.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's work,
Yeah, it's so funny, man, that you're sharing this part right now too. I just had a meeting with a client this morning, and that's literally what we were talking about, the patience and the tenacity. And I have these, 3 words like put in work. Like it takes work and it's hard sometimes, it's really hard. But it's, it's easy to go drink, go do drugs, escape, that's the easy part. It's really hard to get 15 years sober and show up at a club and still hold true to your true identity and true self. And, you said you had 18 years. Is that right?
18 years.
Nice, man. That's amazing. You said you had a lot of good mentors. Like what, for someone out there listening who's maybe early on, like what were a couple of the foundational things in the beginning that really helped to kind of start moving in that direction?
All right. So here's the thing. I'll tell you what it is for me. When I first decided everything's intuition, okay, you've got to go with your gut. And it's very difficult because I always say we all have a calling. The universe calls us, but it's not a conference call. And if the environment isn't set up to help you thrive, you will play another character to survive. We all come from dysfunctional family systems, right? And what happens is we have to play these characters to survive life sometimes. Now, what happens is if we're in these situations where to protect ourselves, we have to alter our mood, okay? The altering of the mood becomes a new habit. But then we get to a point where altering the mood in a disempowering way becomes destructive. Whether it's behavior or substance, the wheels fall off the car.
Yeah.
And then we have this point, which is our rock bottom, and everyone's rock bottom's different, right? And obviously, if you're doing fentanyl, I was smoking crack and doing coke, but I had a high rock bottom. I had money, I had fame, I had success, right? So you didn't think I had a rock bottom. There comes that point that you have to go internally. And I say, if you do the work in the dark, you shine in the bright lights. If you don't do the work in the dark, you get exposed in the bright lights. But then you face your truth self, which takes courage. And you say, shit, I've lived a lie to protect myself. Now I have to take the road less traveled. So I looked at people that had what I wanted. It was attraction.
Nice.
They didn't say a word. I could just see it. I go, they're doing something different than I'm doing. And there's something about it that I want. So I just shut up and I said, okay, I was sober young, but you guys seem to be really, and it wasn't just money success. There was a success. I could feel it. I could smell it. They say it's called emotional contagion. You catch and get contagious by being around the right people, and it's toxic people. You can feel it, right?
Oh yeah.
So I just said, I'm going to surround myself with these guys that have what I want, and I'm just going to listen. I'm going to surrender. And it was simple. They gave me simple structure. Go to meetings, check in with people, and do these things. Now, the crazy thing was I would meditate, I would eat clean, I would work out, I would do those things, but at 10 o'clock at night when I was in the club, I'd be snorting coke and drinking and having fun. So it was literally, to me, it was like, all right, if I cut out the stuff and do the rituals and routines, I was doing the same things, but that was where it was a trick, because it's like work hard, play hard. It's like, because I could get away with it. I thought I was being really deep and spiritual, but it was like doing it 50% of the time. It's like half in, half out, right? So I knew there was a lie. I was like, I'm lying to myself, dude. I got to stop this. This is bullshit. You can't be, so go.
Well, no, I think so many dudes struggle with that. And, that was once again, part of the conversation earlier, that I'm doing the right things. I know what to do. I know to eat clean. I know that I need to be in some sort of meditation, some sort of prayer. I know I need to take care of myself. I need to hit the gym. But then, at night, I'm going to go party. Or even maybe it's even at night, I'm going to eat a bunch of junk food and shit, because there's still that little self-destructive mechanism in there that wants to destroy and say I'm not good enough and I don't care and blah blah blah. Go down the list. What was it for you? So from that point when you were doing stuff during the day and then at 10 o'clock at night, now you're partying in the club, was there something that changed in your brain, or how did you kind of overcome that part of it?
I'll be honest with you. For me, and I always call it destination disease. It's like there is no arrival. And we want to celebrate, and we want to always. What we're doing is like, all right. For example, you get up in the morning, and you feel like shit. And we're not taught to feel our feelings, right? We're taught to either smoke them, drink them, push them down, get on the phone and scroll. And you go, I shouldn't feel like this because the world tells you you're supposed to feel happy and bullshit. You may feel like shit.
Yeah.
Right? So what do? We over-caffeinate ourselves in the morning. We do all these things and we get in the car and we get on social media. We compare our lives to everyone else, right? So because we're not taught to just sit in those feelings, and we're taught that it feels wrong to just feel.
Yeah.
Right? Don't feel that. Take the next pain pill. Right? You see the ads at night. What does it say? You see the golden retriever and the happy couple. Are you feeling lonely? Well, I'm by myself on my couch and it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Do you feel depressed? Sometimes I feel depressed. We've got the solution for you. And then there's 97 fucking, side effects. You'll shit blood. You'll grow a tail over the summer. You'll grow horns, but we'll make you stop feeling the way you're supposed to feel. Yeah. So for me, when I got all the external success, because I came from nothing from Australia, right? Horrible upbringing, never got love from either parents, abused by both parents. When I was a state champion athlete, I was told I was a show off, right? When I came up short, I was called a loser, right? When I barely came up short, undiagnosed dyslexic, no one taught me process. So the only way I could regulate is to get success and overwork and overachieve. And then when I would get the success, I would feel ashamed. So I built this great character of being the club guy, being the cool guy, and I was getting paid. I never had so much money to cut corners. I made thousands and thousands of dollars to be this person that did cocaine with you and have fun and put on parties, right? And be this character. And then I got to the top of the mountain. There's no bigger success than shooting a VH1 show with Scott Weiland, the biggest rock star in the world from Velvet Revolver. I come from Perth. I come from nothing. I come from a tiny little place called Perth, right? And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It's all bullshit. I climbed the wrong fucking mountain. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, if I get off this train, I'll be okay. Because I realized I'd caught the wrong train. You know what I mean? I was walking. It's like you intuitively, you're told to go down this path. And everyone keeps you on this path. They keep giving you the candy, the boobs, the cocaine, the coolness, right? And you're getting pulled on this path. And then you get to the path and you see the other path and you're like, oh, it doesn't, what am I feeding? What am I feeding? It's all a lie. Yeah. So it was just that I knew in my soul, I just was like, this is just a charade. This is stupid. Yeah. What am I doing? And I literally laughed at myself. I go, this is dumb. This is dumb. I'm walking away from this. And I walked away. Wow. And I just said, I had the courage to say, this is a lie. I'm just playing a character and it's not real. And I know a lot of people, I've watched a lot of people die. I watched people were look, the difference, right? I tell people, don't be codependent. If you care for someone, right, step in. Tell them the truth because they need to hear it. And most people get paid, especially if they're celebrities and minders and handlers. Look at Amy Winehouse. Come on, dude. Come on. Everyone's on the take, right? And so for me, it was just like, I was like, I'm done. I'd rather just be like, I did that. No one can say they got exposed like I did. I was working at nightclubs. We're making thousands of dollars and girls would literally come up to me at the door back in Miami and in New York going, I will do anything to get in. And I'm not joking. They would have done anything. I've been in places where there's sex, drugs, and I took friends of mine from Australia. They're like, this is not real. I'm like, no, this is Hollywood. This is what my life is. And I walked away from it. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's crazy how the fulfillment of the flesh is everything but fulfilling. At the end of the day, you're so right. Like I love how you you talk about and admit too of the character aspect of it. A character. You're living a life of this character that you believe is somebody important. And I don't think it's necessarily in the moment. It's it's like a wrong thing. I think by human nature, we want to feel valued and feel important and feel loved and all those things. But when we're stuck in the world, we're going about it all the wrong way. And that's when the sex, the drugs, the money, all those things. And then you do get to a point at one day you go, man, this is really like just meaningless. Like, what does it mean? Who cares? You know, sounds like you kind of had that revelation at some point.
Well, you know what it is as well. So people say to me, like, I remember someone said, like, to become really, like, I'm a top interventionist, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up after stomach surgery running 30 half marathons in 30 days.
Damn.
And I'd run one half marathon. I was a top athlete. And I try to tell someone, even if you're a great athlete, if you don't train, you can't run 30 half marathons in 30 days. You can't do that on natural ability. That means I trained, and it means I have the ability to do it. So I wanted to show people after I wrote my first book, this is how far I can stretch my potential. This is how much potential I have as an athlete, right? And there's a thing that I try to explain to people. So people say, well, why would, say, Tiger Woods go and, you know, have all those affairs, right? And I'm like, well, stop. Look at his life and what he had to train to become successful, okay? There's a hole there. There's a void, right? There's something that he's lacking something. He's looking for that approval. He wants that attention. No normal person is going to get that attention. I used to have thousands of girls a night come up to me and offer me sex at a club, right? If you don't have a good character and good base, you are going to be tempted. You get to a point that I don't have, you know, good principles. And if you've come from abuse and abandonment, right, you're searching for novelty. Every human being, we want to avoid pain and gain pleasure. And I always say, how are you going to get a dose? Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. That's what dose of positivity is about, making empowering choices to get your dose. Every day is the same thing. We're programmed to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
And the world offers you shortcuts. Like the best revelation I had the other morning, I do hours of stretching, right? Yin yoga, deep. And I was sitting there and I was in a stretch and it was so uncomfortable. And I'll stretch some positions for 10 minutes until I pull out all the crap out of my deep fascia tissues, right?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, look, here's the thing. If I had $200 million in the bank, right? Financially, I know I'm pretty good. My generation's going to be pretty good unless I make horrible decisions in crypto or the stock market, right? I'm pretty good. Now, you get the 200 million. This is the illusion. And you think, well, I got the 200 million. I don't have to stretch now. No.
Yeah.
I got to stretch no matter how I feel. That's what we're trying to avoid. We think by the external, we can avoid the internal work.
That's good.
Can't run from it.
Yeah. Can't.
You know what I mean? It catches us in the end. We're running to stand still.
Yeah, that's I think of in the book of Ecclesiastes, a chasing of the wind, a chasing after the wind. And that's a great way to put that, because it's meaningless at the end, man. Yeah.
What are you chasing? It's like I said at the end of the day, right? If you don't look, you've got to find meaning in the moments. Everyone's looking to arrive in the future, but what they don't realize is the present is the future. Because when you arrive in the future, if you're not in the moment, you miss the future moment.
Yep.
It's now. If I can't appreciate now what I have in the moment, and I try to get to that future moment, I jump to the next future moment and I can't enjoy what I have anyway. It's like you see people, right? They're on vacation, but they hate the vacation. Because up here, everywhere you go, you take the weather with you.
Yep.
Right? So they complain about everything. They complain about the service. They complain about the plane. They complain all these things they complain about. There's no appreciation for the moment. Right?
Yeah.
And then when they get home, all they do is complain about their life and everything that happened on the vacation. I knew a guy who literally won $300,000 in the lottery. Free fucking money. Free money.
Yeah.
And he had to complain that he had to pay taxes. Dude, it's free money. Yeah, but why they have to pay taxes? I'm like, you can't appreciate shit.
Yeah, there's some people who just, That's not
everything's a pain.
everything. And that's why I'm laughing when you're explaining the vacation thing. It's just like, when you were saying that, all I'm thinking in my head is just, you miserable son of a bitch. Like, come on, get it together.
You know,
like,
it's like I was on a flight one time, right? And it was delayed. And this guy's freaking out at the person at the counter. I was like, dude, what's your problem? He's like, it's delayed. I'm like, she's not running the plane.
Yeah, what are you going to do about that? Like, it's out of your control.
You call someone, tell them you're delayed. It's like, does it frustrate you? I go, yeah, it frustrates me, but she is standing at the counter. I go, what happens if something wrong with the wing and some idiot pilot's doing cocaine like it's the 80s and he takes us up and crashes us? Will you be pissed off now? Like, it's a delay. Figure it out. We're not going the horse and cart. Yeah. Like, we're going on a plane, dude. Yeah. Like, relax.
That's
it's like.
Well, I think it kind of goes to that point in a couple of the examples that we're talking about right now, of like that acceptance piece that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be right now in this moment. And if you believe that, it's quite a bit easier to stay in the moment and be in gratitude and be in, even if it's the shit that we don't like, because obviously not everything is pleasurable and we go through things. I think I mentioned to you before we started, I just got through a month-long process of passing a kidney stone. It was freaking miserable. Like the first 2-3 weeks were absolutely horrible. Worst pain I've ever felt in my life. But I actually found, and trust me, there was moments, I'm not perfect by any means, where I was pissed off and I was, in pain. But like I was able to sit in that and just go, okay, like this is what it is. I'm going through, just like recovery, everything's a process. I'm going through this process. Eventually, I passed the dang thing and started feeling like myself again. So it's impermanent, like it's not going to last forever. But what are some tricks like for you in staying in the moment? That's a huge topic that I talk about a lot on the podcast, as well as have a lot of other discussions with dudes out there about like, how do we stay in the moment?
Okay, so here's a trick. And there's a great book that I tell people to read. It could be triggering. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's a brilliant book. And I've used to fight against people about a thing about when you're dysregulated because there's pain, because pain can dysregulate us, or when you're triggered because the primitive part of the brain works different to the logical part. The primitive part stores all the memory, implicit and explicit memory. It's the amygdala, right? The lizard brain. Mm-hmm. When we're triggered, it's because something is stored to remind us of a previous event to warn us, right? So the sympathetic nervous system says, hey, get into action, right? Or you suffer pain. The only way, you can't talk yourself into regulating. You can only breathe. Whether it's Brock's breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, or, which is incredible, 4-7-8 breathing. And it's belly breathing. You're in the nose, you hold for 7, you breathe out slowly for 8. If you learn to breathe and get a breath practice, the reason you do it in the morning, because when you first wake up in the morning, cortisol spikes to get us up. That's why everyone is anxious in the morning, because you went from resting to up. Yeah. What people mess up is they drink caffeine when their cortisol is spiked and they get more wired and they jump on their phone, they jump in their car and they scream at people, right? So if you get into a practice going, I'm anxious, I'm in pain, but I will start regulating by breathing. You get into your breath work. What will happen is you don't say to yourself, it doesn't work. No, you breathe correctly until it does work. Right? You regulate your system. Then you remind yourself, oh, I can regulate myself. Right? Through mindfulness practice, I can breathe. Now, if you're in the traffic and someone cuts you off, naturally you get triggered, you get scared, someone will cut me off.
Yeah.
You're dysregulated. Wait, I also have a practice to regulate myself. So I teach people this, right? There's a method called stop. Stop, take a breath, many as breaths, observe the dysregulation disturbance, proceed. You create a gap between stimulus coming in and how you choose to respond. Yeah. And I tell people, they're like, oh yeah, but I say, no. Everyone has seen a boxing match or a UFC fight. Two athletes, if you've really been in a fight, that's not a pillow fight. That is physical violence. It's full on. I've done Kyokushin and Muay Thai. When you're fighting with someone, you ain't thinking of eating a hamburger. You're fighting.
Yeah.
Now, and I always tell people this, watch a fight. When they get to the corner, what's the first thing the corner man says? Breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Why? Breathing diaphragmatically, right, gets you out of the primitive part of the brain, gets you back into your executive function where you can think rationally. That's why people say, I wasn't thinking, I was emotional. Exactly. You weren't thinking. The emotional brain has trapped you, right? You're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or for me, feed, right? You're dysregulated, right? You want to fix to get regulated. So breath work saves lives.
Yeah.
Right? Because you learn to regulate your system. That's why I tell people, get a breath work practice in the morning. Look at this. Altering your mood. I always tell people, if I can regulate myself, I don't need a substance or a person to alter my mood.
Yeah, it's a good point. Great point.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it's sex or addiction or gambling or a behavior, right? I'm dysregulated. Why? Well, why? Well, I'm ruminating. Of what? Well, this person did this to me. Okay, stop, breathe, regulate.
Yeah.
Let's reframe it. Right? Take responsibility. It's gone now, right? Or something happened in the past. Okay, so you hold a resentment, right? So if you can learn to regulate your sympathetic nervous system and stop ruminating, right? I have another one, which is for ruminations called stamp. You stamp on the thoughts, which is stop, always take a breath. After you breathe, adjust your thinking. Once you adjust your thinking, make a change to take responsibility and think of something positive, then proceed. Because there's two ways to look at it, right? You can feel or you can think. So if you're triggered, right, it's feeling, action, and then you're like, oh, thinking, what did I do? Or thinking, right? I'm going to think something. It's going to make me feel something. Then I'm going to act.
So would that be kind of the difference between responding and reacting?
100%.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl always said, respond.
Yeah.
Reaction, right, is coming from a trigger, or I'm triggering it through thought, feeling, then action, or feeling, action, then I'm thinking about what I did.
And you're saying the pause and the breath work,
everything,
and the sitting in that moment for however many seconds or minutes or whatever it looks like,
10, 15 seconds, whatever you need, a couple of minutes,
right? But that's going to be the difference between a response and a reaction, which could ultimately change the course of somebody's life if we wanted to go extreme, because those moments of emotional decisions that are made have gotten people hurt or killed.
Think about an email.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how people are triggered and they write an email and it costs them their job.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. I'm not saying you're not feeling. Look, here's the thing. If you look at someone like Albert Ellis, that created rational emotive behavioral therapy, which then went into afterwards, Aaron Beck created cognitive behavioral therapy, right? He talks about reframing. Now, for me, I like mindfulness, rational emotive behavioral theory, or cognitive theory because it adds in the breathing. It adds in slowing yourself down, slow down the system. You can't go for a sprint, right? And then just start talking.
Oh, yeah. No,
you go for a sprint, you breathe, regulate your system, then have a conversation.
Well, that's
the same thing.
It's funny you say that too. I do a lot of interval training at the gym. So like the other day I do it's like 5 rounds, 2 minutes each with a minute break. And it's 10 box jumps, 10 kettlebell swings. And then I finish out on the rower or jump rope, just depending on what I'm feeling. Right. Those minute breaks, they get a little shorter every round. Like by the 4th round, I'm like, oh man, this minute, it goes by real fast because I'm heavily breathing. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to practice slowing my heart rate down, slowing my emotional state down, slowing everything down so I can continue and complete the round thing. But can you kind of take that same concept and apply it to...
That's brilliant. Yes, because what you're doing as well, this is what you're doing is really smart. You are understanding how to spike your sympathetic nervous system and then regulate yourself into your parasympathetic nervous system, which that's a training for life.
Yeah.
So if you max out your heart at 150, 160, what it is, right? If you really think about it, unless you're in a bank and someone pulls a gun on you, where is your heart rate going to jack up like that? It's not, unless you're stimulated like that. That kind of training is very important. Then in the minute, you probably should do some 4-7-8 breathing, in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. If you want to regulate quicker, because you're frantic, the lower the exhale, the quicker you go into your parasympathetic nervous system. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're so exhausting, you're in your sympathetic nerve. So if you can hold in, you'll regulate quicker. Try it, right?
Okay.
You're training yourself brilliantly to face adversity.
Sure.
Because you know what it feels like to be dysregulated and then how to regulate, right? That's important training. We don't do that enough. So it's gauging, oh my God, because I remember doing like Muay Thai and we do those quick rounds. Sometimes it would go for a minute, 2 minutes, then 3 minutes, 3 minute all out. If you don't learn to breathe diaphragmatically in those rounds,
oh gosh,
I go crazy for days.
Totally,
because I'm so overwired. Do you know what I mean? So I get it. That
and you
kind
think
of training is training for life.
You think 2 or 3 minutes too. Have you ever been in a boxing ring or went to like 2 minutes is 3 minutes is a long time to roll with somebody or to box with somebody or it seems like forever. You're exhausted if you're going full speed. So, the breathing stuff is huge.
It's all breathing. Breathing is life. Breathing. Now, I know Wim Hof has a lot of great things that people do. And here's another thing that people need to learn. You have to balance the yin with the yang. We are very yang driven, which is all out and forced. But we need to learn to restore our bodies and our minds. And that comes from the yin, the slowing down, the parasympathetic nerve. So practices like yin yoga, which is different to yang yoga. In yang yoga, you hold a position for a minute to 2 minutes. It's mainly muscular and strength is great. But if you do a yin yoga pose, you're talking 5 minutes in a posture.
Oh, wow.
What that does is that gets into the fascia tissue, and the fascia tissue is where the trauma is held. What people don't know. So I'll give you an example, right? They call it muscle memory, okay? Well, think about this. When you go through a traumatic event, right, the body remembers it. Now, if you went through a traumatic event as a child, the implicit part of the brain protects you. So it shuts off the event. But the event stays in the cells because the sensory picks it up. So let's go deep here. Let's just say you were abused as a kid and the person had nicotine on their hands. Your brain will shut off the memory to protect you because it's too overwhelming. But every time you smell nicotine, the body keeps the score and knows the event's there, but you don't know it's there. So you see some people sometimes that are over-traumatized, and they're like, I don't feel right in my body. Because you're right. They're not in their body. The trauma is stuck in their body.
Wow.
That's why really deep yin yoga will pull all that cellular memory out of the fascia tissue. And the fascia tissue is between the muscle and the tissue. It's deep in the fascia. Once you start to release the fascia and that blocked trauma and chi, your whole life can change.
That is so interesting, man. Like just the connection and how powerful the mind is too, to be able to block that out. Yeah. And then, and so like, and that's a good example. Like another element to that is if that person, they hate the smell of cigarettes or tobacco, but they don't know why. Why do I hate that so much? Right? Because they've actually forgotten the trauma aspect. It's an event. That's so crazy.
Hey, check this out. I'll give you a perfect example. Right now we're sitting here. I'm going to say one thing. You're just going to say what comes to your mind. Spaghetti bolognese. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Pasta.
Okay. Good or bad?
Good.
Why? Why good?
Taste.
Okay. You've tasted it before. was a good experience, right?
Sure.
So you have an experience through spaghetti bolognese, right? So if you walk into a restaurant and you see spaghetti bolognese, you have an association with something good from a prior experience.
Yes.
Right? Now, Guns N' Roses.
Axl Rose.
Anything. Done. Okay, so you remember Axl Rose, right?
Yeah.
You've either seen Axl Rose or heard it or something like that, right?
Yep.
Good or bad experience?
Good.
Okay, there's something from your past that triggers Axl there's an association.
A lot of people
right?
hate him. I just got to say that. A lot of people hate him. I love him. He was great for me growing up.
But there was something that was good when you were childhood or something.
Lies.
Now,
The album
Lies. Let's go deeper. You break up with a girl, right? And you guys, there's a favorite song that you had, right?
Okay.
That song comes on.
Yeah.
You are going to remember that memory and that girl and that breakup, right?
Forever.
That's deep associations.
Sure.
Now, here's the thing with trauma. There are things that have happened in our past that were traumatic. If you don't have a safe space to talk to someone about it, that's why good trauma therapists or whatever, or just a soundboard, to say, hey, this happened to me as a child. I wasn't protected. I was abandoned. I was abused. This person did this person did that, or whatever. Then you hold on to that memory. When it's triggered in you, it dysregulates you. You start living the event over and over again.
Wow.
And if you don't have a meeting or something, what do? I've got to go to something to regulate myself. What's safe? Guarantee people aren't safe unless you trust them, right? You've been let down. Drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, shopping,
food. All
those things are safe to give me a reward, right? Without anyone telling me off.
Yeah.
Simple.
That's it. Simple. Yeah. That reward
So
system.
if you look at someone's behavior, because people aren't their behavior, everyone's good deep down. They're just damaged and traumatized, and no one spent time with them, meeting them where they're at. Oh, dude, people say, how do you do interventions? I'm like, it's simple. I got a bunch of kids that was on intervention, living in a crack house, doing 30 pills a day of fentanyl, right? I look at their backgrounds. They're all traumatized. They need someone to love them, care with them, not judge them, meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Then I bring in the family and I write empowering letters to make people realize they're loved. Then all I do is I say, look, all I need you to do right now is take this one opportunity, try day by day. That's it. I don't care try. Let's just try to get you to a safe space. Yeah. They'll all agree because I know how to talk to them. Once I get them through detox and they get a little clear, then I go, look, you've never been given rituals and routines, hope, right? No one's ever taught you how skillful and incredible you are. I'll teach you how brilliant you are. Give me a chance to work with you and build your character and your self-confidence. Which they do, because I can meet people where they're at. I'm not a fucking, someone that talks down to people. I'm not some suit that goes, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. I fucked up like you did. I smoked crack. I did crazy shit. I'm a maniac. Yeah. Right? I get them in and I keep them sober. Why? Because the aftercare. They need mentors. They need people that walk the talk. I'm up at 3 a.m. every day doing it. I'm not telling you what to do. I show you how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to be told what to do.
No.
They need to be guided into the fact and loved into the fact of they want to do it on their own. And I think that's kind of the trick to it here. And it's not easy either too. And I hope I don't want to sound like, well, thank you, for what the work you do. But seriously, bro, like you do some of the most important work out there in making people feel human again, making them feel loved, making them feel like they have purpose. And it takes somebody who's passionate about that to do the work, to put that in. So just number one, I think it's awesome. And thanks for sharing some of that with us. And then the other question I had too is how did you get into doing interventions? Like, how did that happen?
You're going to love this.
Yeah.
This is what makes it funny. I used to hate Steve Jobs when he would say this, you connect the dots going backwards. And he talks about getting thrown out of Apple, taking a night class. And because he took these night classes, he realized that animation and pixel. Right. Okay. I never wanted to do this work. It's the truth. I realized I could act by fluke. right? I fell into acting. I'll tell you why. Because I was really good at track, and there was a school play, and I was jerking around at the back of the school play, and two of the kids got sick, and the track coach said, we can't do the play because no one knows the parts. And I remembered the parts of the play through rehearsals, and I didn't realize I was photographic. If you did it in front of me, I could remember it. I'm dyslexic, but I was photographic. So the track coach said, look, do you really know the parts? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do them. I'm like, okay. So I didn't know this. This was a superpower. I had the courage to get up in front of people. I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I could sing, I could act. I said, okay, that's my way out of Perth. So I fell into the acting thing. That was because I had the confidence to do it. So what I didn't realize is when I started to go to auditions, acting wasn't about acting. It was about self-discovery. I was learning characters, but I was really learning myself. It was about breath work. It was about stretching. It was about psychology.
Yeah.
So what I started to do is I got frustrated because I'd only get called for shit auditions. So I was like, well, I don't really want to, this is just garbage. But I realized I'd done so much work on the film stuff, on the TV stuff, right? So I got an opportunity to do stand-up comedy. I had an agent, and then I was sober, and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I should just help people, right? Yeah. And what happened many years ago when I was a kid is I have a schizophrenic cousin, and I was the only one that could get through to him. And I didn't come from poverty. My parents had money. Like there was a lot of wealth around me, but I realized it was a lie. It was like, no one's happy. And she offered me a lot of money as a kid to take care of my cousin. I was like, I can't, I'm moving to Sydney from Perth. And then eventually I came to America. And she's like, it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to work with people. That's your gift.
Yeah.
Because I had a dysregulated brother, a very sick brother. I watched my brother in a coma at 8 years old, and my sister was premature, 13 weeks. I only knew stress and trauma. So I could learn to regulate myself and be around and coach people unconsciously. I got my 10,000 hours because I was always around sick people.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that was my training.
Yeah. You didn't even realize
I was around sick people, and I could just get them back into shape and talk to them. Right. And my emotional intelligence, because of that, was a 10.
Yeah.
I struggled with the book stuff because was dyslexic, but I could get around people and feel them. I could naturally feel what they needed.
Yeah.
So when it came into interventions, I called the guy that was mentoring me, and I said, look, I think I could do interventions. And he called a favor to this very well-known person in LA. And I was getting people sober myself. I was just bringing them into my house and detoxing them and then just helping them. And she hired me, and she's just like, I said, look, there's a guy, I always model behavior. I said, there's a guy out there called Warren Boyd, and he's like this crisis interventionist. I can do that. And she's like, do you have experience? And I was like, yeah. It was kind of just my own experience.
Yeah,
I'm doing it, and she put me on the road. And she's like, she would literally give me an address and said, can you find the person and get him in a treatment? I'm like, yeah, no problem. And I would just know I know from growing up with people like that, I don't feel panic in chaos ever. Because I grew up with chaos.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel dysregulated when someone's dysregulated. So I can naturally regulate them by being calm and bring them down and just loving them. And years ago, this is funny. So I went to acting school, and I met this old man. I wanted to punch him at the time, but he was so funny. And something you said, I said, how do I make it as an actor? Like, because I wanted to really make it to prove everyone wrong. He said, Mike, I'm going to tell you, you're going to make it. Don't even worry about that. I said, okay. He said, but sign up for a job that not many people sign up for. I said, what's that? He goes, be a good fucking human.
Yeah.
I was like, you're an idiot. What does that even mean? The only reason I've ever worked, I don't have an agent, I got all my work without agents, is by being of service and being a good human. Every job I've ever landed, whether it was a celebrity contact or a TV show, it's come from being of service.
Sure.
So I just now, all I focus on, my phone doesn't stop ringing. I get calls. So here's the thing that people don't want to do, and I'll tell you the truth. And I always say this. So when you go to an art gallery and you see a picture on the wall, it's a masterpiece. When you put on your Beats or whatever, your headphones, and you hear a song, it's the masterpiece. When you watch a movie, you watch the end product, it's the masterpiece. But what you don't see is the mess in the art gallery before it gets to the masterpiece.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? No one wants to make a mess, but they want to be a master. You have to live in the muck and you have to train. You don't get the trophy. It's not about the trophy. I'm prepared, because I do the dirty work on myself, to listen to people's dirty stuff and help them, because everyone has so much untapped potential, but we're not trained and we're not taught how to learn.
Yeah.
We're taught shit, right? We're just taught a bunch of crap and put out into the world. So I just teach people how to focus, how to love themselves, how to learn skills. And if you learn skills, guess what happens? You become self-confident.
Sure.
Right? Because you know you're skillful. And opinions are bullshit. If you're it's like you can talk all the shit you want, right? But if you know how to take care of yourself physically, right? You can physically fight. And someone can talk, you're like, dude, I'll kill this person. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. You're like, I can punch and kick. I've proved it.
Yeah.
I go to the gym. I kick the shit out of people, right? It's like when you see the Gracie back in the day. He's like, I'll choke all these guys out. I know something you don't know, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was choking everyone out. He's a little guy. It's like, so what I teach people is watch your inclination. I'm good at this. Great. Don't listen to anyone. Let's get some skills.
Yeah.
Let's become really good and be so good you can't be ignored. And if you bring value to other people, they'll pay you for what they value.
Yeah, that's good. And
right?
I mean, like to your point, everything is about relationship at the end of the day. No matter what business or personal stuff. I mean, it all does come back to that at the end of the day. And I love to it sounds too like you help people find their authentic self, the real self, the true self, which is for many of us all those years covering the trauma, covering the things we don't like about ourselves, covering the things we've been through with substances or other things. And we don't really know who the true self is until we start to dig into that a little bit, which is not easy to do, but man, so possible and so amazing once you're able to start tapping into that. We just got a couple of minutes left. I just want to thank you again, Mike, for coming on the podcast today, man. It's been really great to have you. Open my eyes up to some things. Really loved hearing some of your insights and experience. Any last pieces of advice? Maybe someone out there listening, maybe they're struggling, maybe they just don't know where to go, what next steps are. Are they alone? What advice could you give them?
All right. So the best thing about this is I didn't have the internet. I didn't have positive things to look at as a kid. I had to think greater than my environment. But everyone listening to this, I'm going to teach them a trick. Everyone's enough. And I'll tell you why. It's a very simple process. Doesn't matter where you're at. There is 4 stages to learning. Okay. When you start something, you're unconscious and incompetent. It's natural. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Step 2, which is hard and messy. You become consciously incompetent. Now I'm really conscious of what I don't know. Most people quit. No, it's just work. You don't start off as a black belt. You don't start off as a great piano player. You don't start off as a great podcaster or a great speaker. It's time. Now you apply yourself and you work hard and you get some structures and some disciplines that line up, right? It's practical. You become consciously competent. You become good. But here's the trick. It's work that never ends. You put in the time and your patience and your perseverance, then it becomes an unconscious competent. So what happens is it becomes second nature. So it doesn't matter where you're starting from today. If you want to do something, look at someone else that's doing it, right? Don't be optimistic delusional. I'm never going to play basketball like Michael Jordan. I'm not going to go, hey, I'm 5'9", right? I'm going to go and play for the Bulls. That's called optimism. You can't do anything you put your mind to. That's not true. They say Red Bull gives you wings. The guy jumped out of the building, then sued Red Bull for $10 million, right? You've got to have realism. You've got to be positive, but you've got to work. And you will close the gap from where you are to where you want to be, because every human being on this planet has untouched potential and talent. They just have to follow that process. You will become unconsciously competent eventually if you do the work.
Love it, man. Love it. So good. Where can folks reach out to you, Mike? Where can they find more info? We'll put all the links in the show notes today too.
So I have my website, themikediamond.com, or the Mike. I'm Australian. I say weird shit. On Instagram, it's @the_Mike_diamond. I do check my DMs. If you are struggling, right? If you message a guy like me and say you heard me on the podcast, I do respond to DMs. If I can't personally help you, I can definitely give you a resource and help you out. And it's mainly Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not on that much. It's mainly Instagram and my website and Facebook. Yeah. That's
awesome. Good stuff, man. Thanks so much for coming on today. And we'll put, like I said, all the links for Mike's contact info in the show notes. It's been really, really great to have you, man. Don't hang up just yet. Let me just fade this out, and then we'll chat real quick before we hop off. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.
Share the podcast with a friend. I hope something spoke to you today. Once again, big shout out to Mike Diamond. Thanks to him so much for coming on. Be sure to check out thatsoberguy.com for more resources. Connect us on Instagram @thatsoberguypodcast. Love you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace, love, and respect. Keep your blood clean.